Hello and a very warm welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We are going to jump right in and focus our lens on one of the most transformative concepts in operational efficiency. We're looking at the 5S methodology, but specifically, we are zeroing in on the incredibly powerful second S, set in order, or as it's known in Japanese, Seiton. The ultimate philosophy here is simple, but honestly, it is profound. A place for everything and everything in its place.
Welcome to Bodhi Unified Flow, where we simplify complexity and amplify performance. If you have been searching for a way to transform a chaotic workspace into an environment of absolute precision, well, you are exactly where you need to be. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's session. First, a welcome and our learning objectives. Then, understanding Seiton, set in order. Next, we'll look at ergonomics and motion economy, followed by the Visual Management Toolset. Finally, a summary of key takeaways, and we'll wrap up with our references and works cited.
Section 1. Welcome and learning objectives, setting the stage for workspace optimization.
Before we really get into the nuts and bolts of set in order, we need to be very clear on what you're actually going to take away from this explainer. First, you'll grasp Seiton's precise, non-negotiable role immediately following the initial workspace decluttering phase. Second, you are going to understand the actual physiological science of ergonomic optimization and motion economy, basically why the physical placement of things deeply impacts us mentally and physically. And third, you'll master practical visual management tools that inherently enforce spatial order, totally eliminating the need for constant supervision.
Section 2. Understanding Seiton, set in order, the prerequisite to efficiency.
Let's lay down our foundation. What exactly is Seiton? Simply put, it translates to a sense of organization. It's the meticulous process of arranging essential materials and tools to allow for quick, frictionless access. The primary goal is to ensure every single item has an optimal home, enabling what we call point-of-use efficiency. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that Seiton isn't just about making things look neat and tidy. No, it is about engineering a physical space where work happens with literally zero unnecessary friction. But notice that key word in there, essential materials.
That word essential brings up a really common, very dangerous trap, which perfectly illustrates why the sequence matters so much in 5S. You simply cannot jump straight to set in order. Think about the stark difference between these two concepts. First, we have organized waste. This happens when you attempt to organize a space before you have rigorously decluttered it using the first S, sort, or seiri. If you're building beautiful, custom storage bins for tools you never actually use, you haven't improved your process, right? You've just created organized waste. Then, contrast that with optimized workflow. This only happens post-decluttering. Once the workspace is stripped down to its absolute bare essentials, only then do you analyze the workflow to determine the optimal intuitive home for those remaining items.
Section 3. Ergonomics and motion economy, the science of placement.
So let's contrast two very different work environments. A non-optimized workspace isn't just a bit messy, it carries a heavy, hidden tax. It causes immense cognitive fatigue. Think about it. Every time an operator has to break their concentration to search for a tool, they suffer a cognitive penalty. It leads to wasted motion, terribly high search times, and predictably a huge increase in assembly errors. A Seiton-optimized workspace, however, is a total revelation. It creates an operational rhythm. Because tools are exactly where the hand expects them to be, the space provides passive guidance. It's like the physical environment practically tells the worker what to do next. And crucially, it drastically reduces physical strain.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we actually decide where things go. We use a concept called proximity stratification, often relying on ABC analysis. High-frequency items, those A items you use every few minutes, they belong in the golden zone. This is your primary reach zone, ergonomically located right between your shoulders and your waist. By placing tools there, we completely eliminate bending and stretching. Then you have your medium-frequency B items. They go into compartmentalized bins in easily accessible staging areas nearby. And those low-frequency C items, the stuff you maybe use once a week, they go to distant storage, far away from the immediate, high-value real estate of the workstation.
So how do we make all of this happen in the real world? Implementing Seiton requires real discipline. It is a highly tactical three-step sequence. Step 1. You systematically analyze the current workflow and carefully observe the actual motion patterns of the worker. Step 2. You determine those optimal ergonomic homes for every item based strictly on its frequency of use, heavily utilizing that golden zone we just talked about. Step 3, you apply visual management tools to permanently lock in that newly standardized order. And honestly, that brings us to the most exciting part of the process.
Section 4. The Visual Management Toolset, replacing memory with cues.
The foundational Seiton toolset relies incredibly heavily on passive cues. We want to design a space where literally nobody has to rely on their memory to know where things belong. We use point-of-view storage frameworks to keep things exactly where the work actually happens. We use shadow boards to create silhouettes for tooling. We use painted floor markings and standardized color coding systems to clearly demarcate different zones. The ultimate goal here is to create automated visual signals, or Andon signals. A workspace should be instantly readable by anyone walking past it.
I want to pause on this concept for a second. This is a quote derived from foundational lean literature. Shadow boards provide a clear silhouette for each tool, making it instantly obvious when an item is missing, functioning as an automated Andon signal. An Andon signal in lean manufacturing is essentially an alert to an abnormality. Think about how brilliant a simple shadow board is. If a wrench is missing, the empty painted silhouette basically screams out that there is a problem. You don't need a supervisor to do an inventory check. The workspace itself alerts you to the missing tool in real time. It completely replaces verbal instruction with intuitive spatial cues.
And it's not just the walls of the toolboards. The floor itself becomes a communication device. Floor markings and strict color coding dynamically demarcate safety walkways from material staging areas and set clear boundaries for tool locations. When you tape or paint specific zones, like outlining exactly where a trash can or a pallet should sit, you are creating passive spatial guidance. You're engineering an environment that gently, silently guides the behavior of everyone inside it, maintaining total order without a single word being spoken.
Section 5. Summary of key takeaways. Validating the learning objectives.
Let's look at the strategic outcomes of the Seiton actions we've covered today. When we implement logical and ergonomic arrangement, particularly using that golden zone, the strategic outcome is minimized physical search time. When we enforce point-of-view storage, keeping those tools exactly where the task occurs, we achieve the absolute elimination of motion waste. And when we utilize shadow boards and visual labeling, we dramatically streamlined cognitive load, allowing the worker to settle into a smooth, uninterrupted operational rhythm. We've effectively moved from a chaotic environment to one of total precision.
Before we wrap things up today, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to ponder. Take a mental walk through your current primary workspace. If your workspace had to communicate its own operating logic, using only visual cues, without a single spoken word, without you explaining a thing to anyone, what exactly would it say right now? Would it speak clearly of efficiency, order, and safety? Or would it be communicating confusion and delay? That, my friends, is the ultimate test of Seiton.
Section 6. References and works cited. Sourcing our knowledge.
Our key methodological sources today include guides from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency on lean thinking, as well as comprehensive methodology breakdowns from Adobe for Business, Tractian, and Duralabel resources. These are all phenomenal starting points if you're looking to dive deeper into practical use cases.
We've also drawn heavily from foundational lean literature, including Shigeo Shingo's definitive works on the Shingo system, as well as brilliant insights from the American Society for Quality, the Institute for Supply Management, and Lean Production. Thank you so much for joining this Bodhi Unified Flow Explainer. I really hope this structured journey through Seiton has empowered you to look at your physical workspace not just as an area where work happens, but as a deeply engineered tool for amplifying your performance. Until next time, stay focused and keep optimizing.